Hey guys, what's going on? I got one of my favorite guys on the show today. He's none other than James Rapien from Locked On Bengals, All Bengals, his own channel, whatever else he's got going on. I mean, he's everywhere. What's going on, James?
What's going on, my man? How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. I don't think I'm as busy as you are because I know this is an extremely busy week because it's draft week, baby. I'm fired up. I cannot wait till Thursday night. How you feeling about 31?
Whew, it's I feel good overall. Look, I do because I think that we have our consensus of players that we think are going to be there. But it wouldn't shock me if one of these guys falls, right, and drops 231 or gets in that range, or there's a run on quarterbacks, maybe before the 31st pick. I know people talk about that as part of a trade down scenario. Well, hell, really what you should want is the quarterbacks to go in the top 20 to potentially open things up at 31, or top 25 to potentially open things up at 31 for the Bengals. So, I think that there's going to be a high end player there. It's hard to predict exactly what position, but I think we have a good handle on the positions, and it's just a matter of who's going to be there when they're on the clock. Since there's, and it's an unfamiliar spot. They've never been in this spot in franchise history, but they're drafting 31st overall in round one, maybe in round two, way back when, but not in round one.
Right, exactly. And that's the interesting thing about this draft. And I keep saying this over and over again. I really do think the quarterbacks are going to determine, like you just said, determine how the draft goes, obviously. And like you said, for Bengals fans, we want the quarterbacks to go high because that means there's more talented guys drop down to us. Now, I got to get, since we're talking about quarterbacks here, I got to bring it to you. You're a Bearcat. I'm a Bearcat. Desmond Ritter. I've heard he can be a first round pick. I heard he can be a top 10 pick. I've heard he can be a second round pick. I mean, that's just where this draft is going. And James Rapien, in your mind, where do you see Desmond going? Where do you think he's a first rounder, or you think he's a drop to the second, or where's he going?
I don't think he's a first rounder in most years.
Okay,
right. Last year, I don't think he would have been a first rounder. The Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Herbert draft, I don't think he would have been a first rounder. This year, he's a first rounder, and for a few reasons, right? I think he's better than Kenny Pickett. He's more athletic, has 4-year starter, so similar there, but has a higher ceiling. I would have Malik Willis ahead of Desmond Ritter because of the ceiling aspect of it. I think Malik Willis is a freak. He's got a really big lower body. He can move around. He could throw it a mile. And so when you have those freak athletes, especially in a draft like this where there is no clear-cut number one quarterback, that's what I go for. But you're not taking a quarterback to be an average starter. You're taking him to be great. Right. And while I don't think Desmond Ritter is great, I do think he can stabilize a franchise. So if you're looking for stability, if you're looking for a guy that can come in Atlanta, right, where you try to get a young guy you can build around, I think it would make a lot of sense there. Pittsburgh, they're not quarterback centric, right, where they need their quarterback to win them games necessarily at this stage. That's just not how they view it. I think he makes a ton of sense for them. And I know Cincinnati fans hate me for saying that. The New Orleans Saints, I agree with you. Another one, right? So I think Ritter ultimately goes in the first round. And if it's not in the first round, I think it's the first 10 picks of the second round. But there's value in having a quarterback, and having a potential fifth-year option on that quarterback. So ultimately, I think he'll go in the back end of round one.
Yeah, exactly. And I had Justin Williams on here earlier today, and I tell him the same thing I'm telling you. If he goes to Pittsburgh, I'm going to hate it. But I do think it's a really good fit for him. I mean, I'm going to have to instantly stop rooting for him, which is going to suck, but that's just me. But like Justin Williams, he also said too, and you were there too at their pro days. He said there was a lot of higher up executives there talking to Desmond Ritter, and he goes, they don't put that much time and effort into this if they're not going to potentially talk about drafting him in the first round. So I think there's a very good chance Desmond does go in the first round. It might be a late first rounder, but I think there is a very good shot that they do. And unfortunately, it sounds like it might be the Squares, but who knows?
Yeah. Well, honestly, he should want to fall in the first round, because if he goes in the top 10, well, who's he going to? Maybe Atlanta. Maybe Atlanta takes him 8th overall. Right. But I think what's more likely is Carolina takes a quarterback. And guess where I don't want to go? To Carolina. I think it's the worst case scenario. Not only history-wise, right? Tony Pike gets drafted, goes to Carolina. They already have Jimmy Clausen. They get Cam Newton a year later. He never had a shot there.
Right.
But in this case, the head coach the entire coaching staff could be blown out after this year.
Right,
Like, it wouldn't
right.
shock me.
Hmm.
And so now you're talking about coaching turnover and everything like that. You want to avoid that. And so I think, Atlanta, Arthur Smith, I think they're committed after trading Matt Ryan to give him some time. Mike Tomlin, obviously established. Same goes for the situation in New Orleans now with with you don't have Sean Payton anymore. So
Right.
those are the type of situations that I'd want to go to if I was Desmond Ritter.
Yeah, exactly. Now, let's talk about my boy. Now, this is the one that I get a lot of flack for because you and me have talked about this on Twitter about Kobe Bryant and how I said I think if you get him in the second or third round, he's a steal. And at first I thought he was going to be a legit second round pick. Now, more I've hear about it from the experts, all that stuff, he's probably more of a third round pick. I
Mhm.
still think if you gave him in the third round, I still think it's a steal. Do you think he's on the Bengals radar there in the third round?
Yeah, I do. And, I think when you explore the options of not taking a corner in round one, because we all agree they need a corner, maybe two corners,
Mhm.
depending on where they take them. If you don't take a corner in round one, there's a chance at the end of round two, the corner you want isn't there. And
Mhm.
this is assuming they don't trade. If he's there at 95, mighty tempting. Won the Thorpe Award.
Mhm.
Is a guy that was targeted a ton, tested a ton, and responded well. I think he fits a lot of different schemes. I think he's good in zone, which would make a lot of sense for the Bengals. He obviously can play man if you need him to. So yeah, I think that there's going to be plenty of interest there. And I asked Zach Taylor this on Monday. The benefit of having the University of Cincinnati in your backyard as far as scouting goes. And he's like, look, you have relationships with the coaches. So I think the Bengals are going to have like really high end relationships with these coaches and
Mhm.
the guys on the staff.
Zach
I
used to
think
work
they're
for
going to
him.
have, yeah, exactly. And so I think that they're going to have a really clear picture of who these guys are from coming from that program and where they should go. And, Luke, if you're Luke Fickle, you're always repping your guys, right? But you
Right,
don't want to juice up and gas up Zach Taylor, to the wrong prospects or the wrong guys. Cause,
right.
and so I think Kobe Bryant fits that mold, and I would not be shocked at all if they took him if he's available in round three, especially if they haven't taken a cornerback.
So, in the words of Jake Liscow, we're going to start calling Kobe Bryant Juice Bryant. I'm just curious.
Hey man, if it, yeah, it juice up that secondary a lot. You bring a guy in like him, and the beauty of it is, I think he in round three, when you talk about value, let's say they take a Kyrie Elam, right, or an Andrew
Mhm,
Booth, and I'm sure you'll
mhm.
ask me about him, and maybe you won't. That's fine. A lot of people have spent time on him, so maybe it's just regurgitating the same old opinions. But there's a chance those guys end up sitting week one
Right.
behind Eli Apple. Wouldn't be
Mhm.
shocked at all if they don't
No.
start right away.
Mhm.
Kobe Bryant, if you can get him in round three, I think it's a similar scenario where maybe he's not starting and he's your cornerback four
Right.
week one, but by week eight, week nine, maybe not. Maybe he does emerge and show that he deserves more reps. And I think the same thing goes for the Kyrie Elams, the Kyler Gordons, Andrew Booth Jr. And so if you could find that in the third round with Kobe Bryant, yeah, you got to be excited for it, no doubt.
Exactly. All right. So let's talk about 31. And you brought up with Elam and Booth. And the three I keep bringing up is Elam, Booth, and the guy, my man crush is Linderbaum. That's who I want them to get. I want if he's there, I am running to the table to put his name down. That's just me.
Yep.
And I will be if he's there and they pass on him, I will be highly upset. But I'll get over it.
Mhm.
So if he's there, do you think they're going to take him, or do you think if let's just say if Elam, Booth, and Linderbaum are all there, which one are they taking?
I think they take probably Elam. Um, if I had to guess, and
Mhm.
if I had to rank them, oh, you're gonna hate this. I think it'd be Kyrie Elam, Andrew Booth Jr. So let's say Elam's gone and it's Andrew Booth Jr., Tyler Linderbaum,
Mhm,
and they don't a George Karlaftis doesn't fall, or
mhm.
a Dax Hill, who I think is a really, and I've been on this for at least a week now. I think
Right.
he is kind of a dark horse at 31. To me, yeah, I think they would take Booth.
Mhm.
And I agree with you, by the way. And I think it's BS. These people that want to compare
Oh,
Tyler Linderbaum to Billy
Billy Price.
Price.
Yeah.
You know what the comparison is like? It's like last year. And I like the John Ross pick at the time, but obviously it didn't work out.
Right.
But last year, when I said they should take Jamar Chase over Penei Sewell, it's like they took John Ross. That didn't
Right.
work out. It's the same thing here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. There's never been a day in Billy Price's life where he's been a better center than Tyler Linderbaum. Right. It was the same thing with Jamar Chase. He was dominant at the highest level and the biggest stages always at 19 years old. Well, you look at Tyler Linderbaum, he's an amazing, not a good, not an average, amazing run blocker right now from the jump. From the jump, he's instantly going to vault the height in the ceiling of your ground game with Joe Mixon and the way Joe Mixon can cut back and all of the things that come along with him. You know what else he's good at? He's nasty. He is a glass eater. He fits exactly what this offensive line and Frank Pollock, what they want to do. And yeah, he's a little smaller, and the Bengals, and this is why I think they're going to pass on him, is he's smaller. They're going to be worried about him anchoring in pass protection, especially against bigger defensive tackles. But to me, you talk to people across the league, these evaluators, different scouts. My guy, Bengals Sands, watched a ton of film on him for the Locked On Bengals podcast. And we talked to him, and he's like, look, he might get knocked back, but he's not going to get knocked over.
Right.
He's going to hold up, and he'll be able to re-anchor. And so to me, can he get stronger? Can he figure that part out? I believe he can. And the arm length, I get people are talking about that. Well, guess who else has short arms? Jamar Chase has short arms for a receiver. Look him up.
Mm-hmm.
And he had no problem. So I think there are freaks where you can overlook certain measurables. And there are other guys besides Tyler Linderbaum that fit that. I think Kyler Gordon fits that. He ran a 4.52.
Right.
To me, wouldn't be shocking if they had Kyler Gordon ahead of Kyrie Elam and Andrew Booth Jr. Would not be shocking to me if that was the case. So buckle up if that happens. But yeah, I'm not scared off by Tyler Linderbaum and the arm length and the size. I would draft him if he's available. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just your statement right there of all the different guys. I mean, that's where it's at 31. It's like this whole draft. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, you guys did a show yesterday. I think it was, it's smoke or if it's real. I don't know. I can't tell what they're doing, or what they want to do. I mean, I was 99% sure last year they were going to draft Jamar Chase. I was 100% sure they're going to draft Joe Burrow. But I mean, you're talking the number 1 pick overall and the 5th pick. Now we're talking 31. It's completely different. So that brings you to another question that you actually end up asking Duke Tobin about the safeties. And you asked him, how's he see him? And he says he sees him through his eyes. So,
yeah. Thanks, Duke.
Exactly. That's one thing. I'm going to change course here real quick. Duke Tobin and Zach Taylor, I think, are so much more laid back and more comfortable with you guys now than they ever had before. Marvin Lewis they were always uncomfortable press conferences. I really am enjoying the laid back, they're giving you crap for, asking the question and doing dad jokes and different things like that. And Zach's talking about his kids, try to watch film on YouTube and everything. That's a different Bengal for me than what we have with Mike Brown and with Marvin Lewis in the past few years. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Zach Taylor is extremely likable. Duke Tobin the same. He doesn't talk as much, so you don't see him. But that's the part of it when we were talking about, and obviously we're not talking about it anymore, but 625-1, that was always the awkward part for me because it wasn't like, because I was really critical. I'm not sure if there's another media member that has been as critical of Zach Taylor as me, but I didn't want to be necessarily, right? It was football related. And I think he's such a nice guy. Yeah. Right. And that's the part now is you can allow yourself to see the nice and talk about that when you're not talking about 625-1 and you're talking about winning division titles and AFC titles and being a contending team. And I think Zach has grown a lot. And that's the exciting part for me is, there were still flaws in his game plan and his approach and everything that he did, even in Super Bowl 56. And I'm not going to get into him, but he's grown and there's been steady growth each and every year. And I'm excited to see that growth from him, the growth from the organization. And he admits it, right? And so that's the part of it where I am glad that the Bengals were patient with him, even though I don't know if I could have been as patient, as they were, because now who knows? Could he keep going up? How high is his ceiling?
Right.
We talk about ceiling with players. How high is his ceiling as a head coach? And that part is really intriguing to me. But no, to your overall point, I agree. I think that was the most comfortable I've seen him
Right.
felt like an NFL coach, right? Where, where it was, just kind of shrugging and doing this and doing that and just his body language. And I posted the whole thing on my YouTube channel. So if you do want to check that out after the show's over, you can. If you missed it, it was good stuff from Zach. I think it was
Yeah.
entertaining, and Duke Tobin last week as well.
It was very good. I mean, you're a lot more comfortable when you come off a Super Bowl run, so that does help a little
Sure.
bit there. But all right, let's get back to the draft here real quick. Now, the other issue I was going to go to the safeties, and we have Jesse Bates, who could be his last year at the Bengals. I don't see them franchising him twice. Von
Yep.
Bell is in his last year of his contract, so I think safety is something they have to address. Now, we're not going to get the kid out of Notre Dame. I know that he'll probably be gone before them.
Mhm.
But where do you see them addressing it? Could that be a second round pick? Could that be Petrie, the kid out of Baylor, who is a safety and can play slot corner as well? If I'm correct on that, is where do you see them going with safety? I'll put it that way.
Yeah, Jalen Petrie certainly would be a contender. I think, especially if they traded down or pick 63, would be a guy that they would look at. I'll give you another mid round because that's where I think it starts most of the time. Now there is a scenario, and I'll get to it, where they take a safety at 31, and there's a couple guys that could be contenders there. But to me, Brian Cook, I know we've talked a lot about Kobe
Yes.
Bryant, and not
Yes.
just here, but I think Brian Cook is a real possibility at 95 if he's available. And I'm not sure he's going to be. I mean, this kid, you talk to anybody at UC, and they think that, one, they called him the leader of the defense, not Kobe Bryant, not Ahmad Sauce Gardner. Sauce is going to be a top 10 pick, and maybe the highest draft pick in Bearcats history. So, yeah, I think Cook's certainly a contender there, and could make an instant impact if you need him to at safety, or he could just be a part of those three safety sets and contribute on special teams. And, if you don't re-sign Von Bell or Jesse Bates, then he could take over there. So I like him a lot. But looking at 31, there's two guys. I think Lewis Seen out of Georgia is a guy. You look at it and it's like, man, he's big, he's physical, he's strong. If he falls or if you trade back to 37, 38, you're really interested. But even at 31, I think they would have a conversation depending on who's on the board. But the guy that I think is highest on their board, and I don't think he's going to be there, but highest among the safeties and among the realistic defensive backs, and that includes, Andrew Booth Jr., Kyer Elam, Kyler Gordon, a guy I think could be above all those guys, is Daxton Hill out of Michigan.
Ooh.
This is a kid who can play the slot, is a great tackler, is rangy, is a guy that, to me, he's not big, right? But you could play him and Jesse Bates together and cover so much ground in this pass-happy league.
Right.
And he can tackle. It's not like tackling is an issue. So he's not built like Von Bell, but he gives you this flex where you can play him at nickel. You can play him all over the field. He's this playmaker type player. And I was looking at mocks like Albert Breer's mock. He's not in his latest first round mock. Other mocks, he's going 15th overall. If Daxton Hill is available at 31, and let's say Devontae Wyatt's gone, George Karlaftis is gone, maybe Kyer Elam is gone, and those guys would probably have to be gone for Hill to be available. I think they're going to have a dilemma because he might be the 15th best player on their board, maybe even higher. I mean, he's a baller, and I know I've taken him in a couple mocks this week, media mocks and different things that I've done, because I think he's that high on their board. Could I be dead wrong? Could he be the 32nd player on their board? Maybe, but I think Daxton Hill is a guy that they would be excited about if they were able to get him at 31.
Now you mentioned Wyatt. Now that was the guy I was on a lot at the beginning of the draft, and I've kind of gotten off of him because I just personally don't think he's going to be there. Is there a chance that he could be there for the Bengals? Because we do need a 3-tech.
Yeah, no, there is a chance, and there's a couple of things going against him, right? His age, he's 24. Right. And so that's part of it. You're an older player, and age does matter. Duke Tobin got me again. He was like, well, we're not drafting any 40-year-olds when I asked him if age mattered.
He was giving you all kinds of hell the other day.
He was, man, and I wanted to tell him I liked his shoes, but, after he gave me knocked me a couple times, I'm like, all right, man, I'm not going to, compliment your Air Force Ones, but
right, exactly.
He was rocking some Forces though, for those wondering.
Nice. But
yeah, I was asked him because age does matter, and that could be the tiebreaker. Just does. But if he's there, man, it's tough to pass him because he
Right.
fits that need.
Mhm.
He's the top 3 tech in the draft. You could get him and have him on a rookie deal, and suddenly you have that rookie or the rookie contract. You have a 3 tech plugged for 4 years. There are
Mhm.
some off the field questions. I know he's been charged with some things, not convicted of anything,
Right.
but that could certainly cause him to fall too. I think the Bengals are in a better position now to take someone like that versus a year or two ago.
Right.
Especially if he's high on their board. So no, I think it is realistic, and I think there is a chance he falls. Ultimately, if I had to wager, I think both Hill and Wyatt are both gone.
Mhm.
But it's the NFL draft for a reason. It's unpredictable for a
Right.
reason, and I think both guys could fall to that 31st pick.
Exactly. I'll tell you right now, if Linderbaum and Wyatt are there, I I don't know why I'm a big Linderbaum guy, but I
Yeah.
might actually lean more toward Wyatt if he's there. But because to me that's a bigger need than the
Yeah.
offensive line. It just that's it. But I would be such a hard pick for me.
Here's my logic on Linderbaum. There's a lot of people that overthink the draft,
Yeah.
and it happens all the time. I'll give you an example. Tyrann Mathieu. Tyrann Mathieu, he came out in 2013, and I thought you just watch him, and he makes plays all over the field. And I was no film grinder, but it was just pretty obvious. I was like,
Right.
man, take him. And he wasn't going to go in round 1 because he had the off the field stuff at
Right.
LSU, and it had a lot to do with weed, which wouldn't be an issue now, but it
Right.
was then. We're talking
Right.
almost a decade ago. The Bengals land Tyler Eifert in round 1, and Tyrann Mathieu's there in round 2. And there were size concerns. Could he stay healthy? All of these things. And they took freaking Margus Hunt, the biggest guy in the draft, right? You're
Right.
talking 6'8" mountain of a man.
Uh-huh.
And so you can look at measurables all day long. And I'm not saying this is a Wyatt versus Linderbaum conversation. This is
Yeah.
specifically Linderbaum.
Right.
Watch Linderbaum.
Mhm.
I think that translates. I think
Yeah.
he's going to be damn good. I don't think he's Garrett Bradbury for the Vikings, who's the small center that I think teams have compared to Linderbaum. I think this dude, we're going to look up, and he's going to fall. He might fall out of the first round and be the 35th pick to the Jets, 33rd pick to the Jags.
Okay.
Maybe he
Alright,
falls to 40 or something like that.
if he falls, do you think the Bengals trade up the
I
second
don't.
round?
No, I don't.
No.
And so if he falls, we're gonna look up 5 years from now and be like, man, how the hell did that guy fall to round 2? He's a 3-time Pro Bowler, entering his 5th year and just playing at such a damn high level. That's why I take him,
Right. Yeah.
right? Because sometimes there are little traits or little things they're missing, right?
Mhm.
Jamar Chase misses a year. Oh, his arms aren't super long. Oh, they need this position. Yeah, but he's a freak.
Right.
And I like freaks, right? The freaks,
Exactly.
the freaks come out at night. They also come out when the lights are brightest. And I think Tyler Linderbaum is a freak. I would take him if he's there. Future Pro Bowler, maybe an All Pro, and a guy that you better do a victory lap if they get him. That's what I want
Dude,
to
I
see
will.
right here.
I tweeted that out. If they do it, I'll be down at Paul
All
Brown
right.
Stadium, and I'll do a victory lap right around there if they get Linderbaum, and I'll get my wife to video it. Like, there's my crazy husband again. Like, what's wrong with him? All right, real quick here. One last thing before I let you go, and this is my other kind of off the wall man crush that I would like to get in like the 5th round. And you guys talk about locked on Bengals.
Yep.
Matt Ariza, the punter.
Ah, yep.
I want to get him. I mean, I know they have Drew Christensen and everything. I know he's could be the future punter, and there's nothing against Kevin Huber, but I've never seen a punter punt like him.
Mhm.
I would like to get him if he's in the 5th round. I know Jake is not a punter guy. He doesn't like to draft kickers. I know that, but I think you're more leaning toward more my side. What do you think?
I'm open to it. Absolutely. There's value in that. And, if you think that guy can hold down that position for another decade, much like Kevin Huber did, well, yeah, they're draftable. Of course they are, especially at the end of the 5th round. He might not even be there, but if he's there at the end of the 5th round, it's basically a 6th round pick. You're telling me you can't, you pass on a guy like that?
Right.
Like if you look at him and I get it. People are like, oh, well, look at his touchbacks and things like that. All right, well, he's got the physical traits. So can Darren Simmons, who's one of the best special teams coaches in the league, work with him on directional punting and all of those things? Holding, how is he as a holder? Would he be the holder for Evan McPherson? That stuff matters.
Right, it does, yeah.
But am I open to it? Absolutely, I'm open to it. Much like I was open to Evan McPherson last year. And I don't think he would have the same impact as McPherson. It's not as valuable of a position. The other thing I like about Areza is he does have the ability to kick field goals in a pinch.
Right.
And so if something happened, right, and you're in a playoff game, well, now you do have a kicker on the roster that's active already, and there is a little value in that. That doesn't mean you draft him because of that, but that would be an added bonus as well. So to me, yeah, I would certainly be open to it, especially if they're able to get, like if we look up and they have a cornerback that they believe in, and they are able to get the offensive lineman, stuff like that, then yeah. At the same time, last year, the reason they were able to get McPherson is because they traded down.
Right.
Maybe they do go that same route and they're able to trade down and they have an extra mid-round pick to work with, and they use it with Onoreza because they do have to get a safety, like we mentioned, another receiver, defensive lineman, offensive line. I mean, I didn't mention corner, tight end, right? So that's 5 to 6 different areas that they're hoping to address. Now, they're not going to be able to address them all.
Right.
They're just not. Right. The mock drafts that you do on Pro Football Net, I mean, not you specifically, but that everyone does at these different, they're not going to fill every need. They're not going to be able to get a returner, receiver, cornerback, second corner, safety, 3 tech, offensive line. They're not going to be able to do all of those things. But if they do most of those things, am I open to them taking a punter? Yeah. If 5th and 6th round, and it might not even be a raiser. There are other guys that are pretty high end punters too, that could be 7th round. They have 2 7th rounders. So there's a chance that they take a punter late day 3, no doubt.
Well, yeah, you're talking about mock drafts. I've done a couple of mock drafts. My last one I hated. Like I couldn't get anybody I liked. I'm like, I don't even like this one. So I said, I'm gonna take a break from mock drafts. This one's pissing me off. I'm like, I can't get anybody I want. Anyway, James, you gave me almost a half hour. I appreciate you, man. Tell everybody, all Bengals, Locked On Bengals, everything you got going on, anything you want to plug, go ahead.
Yeah, we're loaded this week, and it starts at allbengals.com. We'll be there at Paul Brown Stadium covering the draft, covering all things, anything that I think Bengals fans are going to want to know about this draft. Rumor, news update, anything will be posted at allbengals.com. We'll be doing daily updates and podcasts on Locked On Bengals, analysis of each and every pick, who they could be taking right after round 1, who they could be taking in round 2 and 3. We'll cover that as well. So make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And then right here on YouTube as well, Cincinnati Bengals Talk. So coming at you in a lot of different angles. Hopefully we'll be able to give you the best Bengals coverage out there on those 3 platforms.
Exactly. James, I know you're busy. I appreciate you coming on, and who day, brother.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me.